I walked in on my husband making out with his coworker in the office break room. Instead of screaming, I smiled and said, "Oh, don't stop on my account." He froze. She stammered, I thought you were divorced?" I pulled out my phone, pressed record, and whispered, "Well, he is now." The video went straight to HR. And his boss, who happened to be his mistress' husband. I'm 41. My husband, well, was my husband, Dylan, is 43. We live in Chicago. Married for 9 years. Together for 12. No kids. Both of us have good jobs. I work in HR at a tech company. He worked at a marketing firm downtown. Seemed like a decent marriage on the outside. Stable. Normal. Boring, even. But the last year, things shifted. He got distant. More secretive with his phone. Always texting but never saying who. Started dressing better for work. Switched colognes. Said he was trying to feel better about himself. Fine. I supported that. He also started staying late more often. Always had a reason. New campaign. Client meetings. Team drinks. The usual excuses. One Thursday night, he came home at almost midnight. No warning. I asked why he didn't text. Phone died. Sure. The next day, I checked his call log while he was in the shower. He'd recently changed his phone password. I knew it used to be our wedding anniversary. It was now his dog's name. Weird detail, I know. But the point is, I had to try something to get into it. When I did, I found call after call with one number, Michelle Work. All at odd times. Early mornings. Late at night. Sometimes during lunch. Once at 1 a.m. I confronted him. He said they were just friends. That they'd grown close because they worked long hours. She's married too, he added. Like that meant anything. I asked why he never mentioned her before. He shrugged. Said it wasn't important. I knew something was off. I started paying more attention. That weekend, I went through our credit card bill. Found 2 charges at a hotel near his office. Both on Thursday nights. Both for conference room rental. I asked him. He claimed it was for late-night brainstorming sessions with his team. Totally normal, he said. I didn't argue. I just nodded and made a note to myself. I started keeping screenshots. Photos. Receipts. I wasn't sure what I was building up to, but I knew I was going to need proof. Fast forward to a Friday afternoon, 2 weeks later. I was downtown to meet a friend for lunch at a place across the street from Dylan's office. I had about 15 minutes to kill, and for some reason, don't ask me why, I decided to drop by Dylan's office. I figured I'd surprise him with coffee. We'd done that kind of thing before. I walked in. The front desk receptionist recognized me. She smiled but looked nervous. I said, "Hey, is Dylan around?" She paused. I think he's in the break room." Her tone was weird. Too careful. So I walked back. I'd been to his office holiday party the year before. I knew where everything was. The break room door was half open. I stepped in, holding 2 coffees. And stopped cold. There he was. Dylan. My husband. Arms wrapped around Michelle. Her mouth on his. His hands on her hips. Eyes closed. Lost in it. I didn't say a word for a few seconds. I just stared. Then I cleared my throat. They jumped apart like I'd set off an alarm. Dylan went pale. Michelle froze. I looked at them. Smiled. And said, "Oh. Don't stop on my account." Michelle blinked at me, confused. Then whispered, I thought you two were divorced." I pulled out my phone. Hit record. Held it up. Then said, quietly, "Well, he is now." They didn't move. Just stood there while I filmed their guilty faces. No yelling. No cursing. No drama from me. Just silence and a camera. I turned and walked out. I didn't speak to him. I didn't slam the door. I didn't even spill the coffee. I walked down the hall, back out the front doors, and straight to my car. I sat there for a full 5 minutes, breathing. Then I emailed the video to Dylan's HR department. Subject, inappropriate conduct in office premises. And then, I sent it to someone else. See, I hadn't told you the best part yet. Michelle? The woman in the video? She's married too. To Greg. who just so happens to be Dylan's boss. Yeah. I met him at the company's Christmas party. Seemed like a good guy. Kind of quiet. Old school type. Had no clue this was happening under his nose. I found his work email. Sent him the video. Subject, thought you should know. No message. Just the clip. Within hours, I got a response. Thank you. I had suspicions. This confirms everything. I'm very sorry you had to see this. I'll handle it. That was it. I haven't heard from Dylan since that day. Not in person. Not face to face. But he's been texting. A lot. It started with, "It's not what it looked like." Then, "Can we talk?" Then, "Please don't do anything rash." Then finally, "You ruined my life." That last one made me laugh. I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped covering for his lies. Greg, the boss/husband? I heard through mutual contacts that Michelle moved out. He's already speaking to divorce lawyers. And Dylan? Fired. Effective immediately. HR didn't even wait for Monday. They cleaned out his desk and had security walk him out. As for me? I haven't cried. Not yet. I don't know if that's strength or shock. I don't know what I'm doing next. I haven't filed yet. But I will. I've started gathering everything. Bank accounts. Documents. Messages. I want to make sure he doesn't walk away clean. I gave 12 years to that man. I gave him every chance to tell me the truth. And he chose this. So yeah. That's where I'm at. And no, this isn't over yet. So. Remember when I said this wasn't over? Yeah. I wasn't kidding. After I sent that video to Dylan's HR and Michelle's husband, Greg, also Dylan's boss, things moved fast. Dylan got fired within 24 hours. Michelle went on personal leave. Greg stopped showing up at the office entirely. Word spread around Dylan's company faster than I thought it would. Apparently someone on the HR team leaked the situation to a few coworkers, and from there, it exploded. But then something really weird happened. The Sunday after everything went down, I got a knock on my apartment door. It was Michelle. No warning. No message. Just her, standing there in yoga pants and sunglasses like we were about to go to brunch. Her eyes were red. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Can we talk?" she said. I didn't open the door wide. Just stood there, blocking it. "Why would I want to talk to you?" "I didn't know," she said. "I swear. He told me you were separated. That you were living apart. That you cheated first and he was done." I didn't say anything. She went on. "He said you didn't love him anymore. That you were emotionally abusive. That he was trying to find a way out." My jaw locked. I just stared at her. She blinked. Was that not true? I actually laughed. She realized then. I could see it on her face. She knew she'd been played, too. She was crying now, ugly and loud, and I told her to leave. She tried to come in. I shut the door on her mid-sentence. But she left something behind. A folded-up envelope. Inside? Printouts of their texts. Their emails. Screenshots of their hotel bookings. Photos. Audio recordings. All from the last 7 months. 7. They'd started hooking up not just before the work dinners, but even when Dylan was pretending to be working from home on snow days. One of the emails had the subject line, "Client Presentation Notes." Inside was a receipt from a spa. There was also one message that stopped me cold: "Greg's out of town next weekend. Want to stay at his place?" Michelle had been bringing Dylan into her marital home while Greg was traveling for work. And then came the final twist. One of the audio recordings was of Dylan talking on the phone with someone. I recognized the voice. It was his mom. He said, "Don't worry, Mom. I'm handling it. Natalie's gonna back down once she cools off. I've got a lawyer lined up to make sure I don't lose anything." I sat there listening to that, shaking. This man, who betrayed me, lied to me, cheated on me in my face, was already planning a divorce strategy behind my back. I called a lawyer that same night. A better one. She looked through everything Michelle gave me and said, "He's done. We're going to bury him in paperwork." But it didn't stop there. 3 days later, I got a call from my own HR department. Apparently, someone had filed a retaliation complaint against me. Said I was harassing my husband and leaking confidential materials to outside parties. It was Dylan. He had filed it from his personal email to my workplace, claiming I was using insider access to destroy his career. My blood ran cold. I had to go into a meeting with my manager and a legal advisor to explain everything. Thankfully, I had kept records. Every message, every step, everything I had done, I kept it separate from work. Still, I had to defend myself for his mess. That same night, I messaged Greg. I told him about the retaliation attempt. About Michelle showing up. About the audio recordings. And about how Dylan wasn't just cheating, he was strategizing. Greg replied, "You need to be careful. Dylan's been calling me, too. He's trying to convince me to forgive Michelle. Says it was just stress. He's trying to clean up the fallout." Then he said, "But he doesn't know I've got my own cards to play." Whatever that means. I haven't heard from Greg since. And here's one more thing I haven't said until now. I'm still living in the same apartment Dylan and I shared. He hasn't come back for his stuff. But things have been moved. Drawers left open. Mail that I didn't put on the counter. A shirt of his that I know I boxed up, back in the closet. I changed the locks after the break room incident. But I never changed the building keycard. The front desk guy assumed we were still together. I now sleep with the bedroom door locked. Just in case. I've filed for divorce. My lawyer is going after everything. Every lie. Every penny. But I have a feeling this isn't over. Not even close. If you haven't read the first 2 parts, don't bother asking why didn't you leave sooner. I've left. Emotionally, mentally, legally. But physically? I'm still here. Still in the apartment we shared. Still dodging landmines left behind by a man I don't even recognize anymore. Quick recap, my husband Dylan cheated with his coworker Michelle. I caught them making out in his office break room. I filmed it. Sent it to HR, sent it to her husband, Greg, who also happens to be Dylan's boss. Dylan got fired. Michelle went on personal leave. Greg vanished. Then Michelle showed up crying at my door. Left behind a file of texts, emails, photos. Including one voicemail of Dylan telling his mom that he was going to handle me. I thought that was the worst of it. I was wrong. He broke into the apartment. It happened while I was at work. I came home and something felt off immediately. My dog, Benny, my little rescue mutt, was barking, not his usual excited bark, but low, steady, anxious. My bedroom door, which I always lock before leaving, was wide open. A drawer in my vanity was pulled out and halfway onto the floor. 2 of my bras were missing. You read that right. Not money. Not electronics. Bras. I checked the ring cam footage on my door. Nothing. But our apartment has a back service door for maintenance. I forgot about it. I didn't have a camera pointed there. I called the cops. They came, took a report, but without clear forced entry, they couldn't do much. No fingerprints. No signs of damage. Just the creepiest violation I've ever felt. I changed all the locks. Told the building. Cancelled every shared access point. And then I remembered something. Michelle's folder. One of the printouts, an email from Dylan to a friend, had said. She'll freak out when I'm not there. She can't handle being alone. She'll beg me to come back. I think he thought I'd call him. That I'd be scared and reach out. That I'd ask him to come over. Instead, I went nuclear. I filed for a restraining order the next day. But it didn't end there. 3 nights later, my phone buzzed. Blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. The message? His voice. Calm. Cold. I see you're still dragging this out. That's okay. You'll come around. You always do. We belong to each other, Nat. You'll see. I saved the message. Sent it to my lawyer. Sent it to the police. I haven't heard back about the restraining order yet. These things take time, apparently. Meanwhile, I've moved in with my sister across town. Benny and I are sleeping on a futon in her guest room. The apartment is empty. But here's the twist I didn't expect. Greg, the boss, Michelle's husband, texted me last night. Said, "Can we meet in person?" There's more. I hesitated. My gut said no. But I said yes. We met in a public place. A small corner table in a crowded Starbucks on Lincoln Avenue. He looked wrecked. Tired. Gray in the face. Then he pulled out a folder. Inside? Bank transfers. Hotel invoices. Emails with Dylan's name on them. Not for affairs. For corporate embezzlement. Apparently Dylan had been double-billing clients through fake subcontractors, set up under Michelle's name. Greg didn't catch it until after he got access to some of her company emails. Over $74,000 missing. Greg didn't report it yet. He said he wanted to confront Michelle first. She denied everything. Then ghosted him. Deleted her social accounts. Her number's disconnected now. Dylan? Still trying to call me. I'm starting to believe this was never just about cheating. It was about control. Lies. Maybe even fraud. Greg told me he might go to the authorities. That he may need me to testify. I said yes. Whatever he needs. And just when I thought I'd finally hit the bottom, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside? A single printed photo. Me. Sleeping. From the angle, it had to have been taken inside my bedroom. No note. No explanation. Just me. Asleep. In my own bed. And now I can't stop thinking, was that the same night I found the drawer open? Was he there? Standing over me? Watching? This isn't just a messy breakup anymore. It's becoming something else entirely. This is the last update I'm posting. Not because the story is fully over, but because I am. I've lived in the chaos long enough. It's time to start something new. But first, the ending you've been waiting for. After Greg showed me the photo of myself sleeping, the one that was mailed anonymously, I hit a different kind of low. I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. Every creak in my sister's house made my chest tighten. Benny wouldn't leave my side. I reported the photo to the police. Again. They logged it. But without fingerprints or proof Dylan sent it, they couldn't do much. My restraining order was still processing. The system, apparently, moves slower than fear. A few days later, Greg messaged me again. He'd gone ahead and filed a report against Michelle and Dylan, corporate fraud, forgery, misappropriation of funds. Said the investigation was going forward. A detective might want to speak to me. I said okay. Then something really unexpected happened. Michelle messaged me. From a burner account on Instagram. No profile pic. Just a DM that said, we both need to talk to him. In person. You deserve answers. I need closure. I ignored it for a day. Then I said yes. Not because I trusted her, but because I wanted to look Dylan in the face and see whatever was left of his lies. So we set it up. A neutral location, Greg booked a small conference room in a co-working space in River North. 4 chairs. 4 people. Greg brought security. I brought pepper spray. We sat down. Dylan came in last. He looked smug. Like someone still convinced he could fix this with words. His hair was slicked back. Shirt ironed. Like he was going on a job interview instead of facing the 3 people he destroyed. He looked at me and smiled. Nat. You look good. I didn't respond. Michelle sat stiff in her seat, arms folded tight, like she was holding her ribs together. Greg broke the silence. You've got one chance to explain yourself. Don't waste it. Dylan scoffed. Explain what? That I had an affair? That's already out in the open. The rest of this is just a witch hunt. Michelle leaned forward, voice shaking. You told me we were in love. You told me Greg hit you. You said Natalie cheated. You said I was the only one who understood you. He shrugged. I said what I had to say. You think I wanted to lose everything over a fling? Silence. I finally spoke. Did you take that picture of me sleeping? His eyes didn't flicker. I don't know what you're talking about. Greg pulled out a file. Slammed it on the table. Fake vendors. Faked receipts. You laundered money using my wife's name. You used company accounts to book hotel rooms. You stole from my company. Dylan leaned back. You can't prove it was me. Greg opened the file. Showed him a page. You used your own email address to send the invoice. The smug look cracked. He didn't say anything. Michelle started crying. You lied to all of us. I could lose everything. Then Dylan did the one thing I didn't expect. He laughed. Not loud. Just low. Almost like a sigh. You're all so dramatic. You think I'm the first guy to cheat? The first guy to move some money around? The only reason any of you are pissed is because you got caught in it too. Greg stood up. I'm pressing full charges. You'll hear from my lawyer by Monday. Michelle stood up too, tears streaming. She didn't look at anyone. Just walked out. Didn't even grab her bag. I stayed seated. Dylan turned to me. You always needed a story to be the victim in. Well, congrats. You got it. That's when I finally snapped. You drugged me through hell for over a year. You cheated. Lied. Gaslit me. And now you're standing in front of 3 people whose lives you set on fire, and all you can say is congrats? I stood up. You don't get to walk away from this clean. You don't get to laugh this off. His mouth opened like he was about to say something smart. Then Greg did the one thing I'll never forget. He slapped a folded sheet of paper onto the table. It's a warrant. You're under investigation. Financial Crimes Unit. Dylan's face dropped. Color drained from his cheeks. Greg looked at me. Nodded. I'll walk you out. I didn't say another word to Dylan. I left. I didn't look back. Immediate aftermath, Michelle moved to another city. I heard from a mutual friend that she's seeing a therapist and living with her sister. Greg pushed forward with the investigation. Dylan's bank accounts are frozen. He's facing potential charges, fraud, wire fraud, and corporate theft. He tried calling me again last week. From a different number. Left a voicemail. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I messed up. Can we talk? No, Dylan. We can't. I finalized the divorce. No court battle. No mediation. Just clean, cold paperwork. I left the apartment. My sister and I split rent now. It's not glamorous, but it's safe. Benny sleeps at the foot of my bed again. I still flinch at noises at night. Still double-check every door. Still hate the way my name sounds in his voice. But I'm healing. Slow. Quiet. Real. I sometimes wonder if I missed red flags. If I let love blind me. Maybe I did. But I also got out. And I didn't let him bury me in the mess he made. Greg texted me last night. Thank you. For standing your ground. You saved more than just yourself. I didn't respond. But I smiled. And for the first time in months, it felt real. I'm not sure what's next. But I know what's not next. Him. I may never get an apology. Or justice in the way I imagined. But I got the truth. And now? I'm finally free.